Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Brajajanna Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajanna Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Astotarasata Shushimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Astotarasata Shushimad Sri Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai
Ki
Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai
Jai
ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai
Jai
Premsako Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Jai
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai
Jai
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Mayapur Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Navadvip Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai
Jai
ISKCON Dhams Worldwide Ki Jai
Jai
Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai
Jai
Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai
Jai
Jamunamaya Gangamaya Ki Jai
Jai
Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai
Jai
Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai
Jai
Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai
Jai
Going back home, back to Godhead Ki Jai
Hari Bol
Gaur Pramananda Hare Bol
Hari 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 Hari
Glory to all assembled devotees
Hare Krishna
All glories to all assembled devotees
Hare Krishna
All glories to all assembled devotees
Hare Krishna
all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Guru.
All glories to Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the third canto, chapter 12, texts 49 to 52. And, of course, we're going to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like light. It's described in different ways. Sometimes it's like a light. Sometimes it's like a candle, like the sunlight, or like a candlelight, or like a ripened fruit, and other things we'll discuss. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to just read the text 49 to 51 here. Pato paramapadaya sasagaya manodade. Thereafter Brahma accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus he engaged himself in the matter of further creation. Purport. In his former body, which was transcendental, affection for sex life was forbidden, and Brahma therefore had to accept another body to allow himself to be connected with sex. He thus engaged himself in the matter of creation. His former body transformed into fog, as previously described. So the next verse, Rishinam Bhuri Viryanam Api Sargam Avistritam Gyatva Tadridaye Bhuyas Chintayamasa Kurava. O son of the Kurus, when Brahma saw that in spite of the presence of sages of great potency, there was no sufficient increase in population. He seriously began to consider how the population could be increased. And then, I guess I messed up this verse, sorry. Aho adbhutam etan me vyapritasyapi nityada nahi etanti prajanunam daivam atra vighatakam. Brahma thought to himself, alas, it is wonderful that in spite of my being scattered all over, there is still insufficient population throughout the universe. There is no other cause for this misfortune but destiny. So today's verse, Evam Yukta Kritas Tasya Evam Yukta Kritas Tasya Daivam Chavikshatas Tada Daivam Chavikshatas Tada Tasya Rupam Abud Dvedha Kasya Rupam Abud Veda Yat Kayam Abhichakshate Yat Kayam Abhichakshate Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abud Veda Yat Kayam Abhichakshate Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abudvedha Yat Kayam Abhikachate
Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abudvedha Yatkayam Abhichakshate
Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abudveda Yatkayam Abhichakshate
Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abudveda Yat Kayam Abhichakshate
Evam Yukta Kritastasya Daivam Chavikshatastada Kasya Rupam Abhudvedha Yat Kayam Abhichakshate
Evam yukta kritastasya.
Evam yukta kritastasya.
Daivam cha vikshtastada.
Daivam cha vikshtastada.
Kasya rupam abudvedha.
Kasya rupam abhudvedha.
Yathayam avichakshate.
Yatayam avichakshate.
Evam,
Evam,
thus,
thus,
yukta,
yukta,
contemplating,
contemplating,
kritaha,
kritaha,
while doing so,
while doing so,
tasya,
tasya,
of his, daivam,
daivam,
supernatural power,
supernatural power,
cha,
cha,
also, avekshataha,
avekshataha,
observing, tada, at that time, kasya, of Brahmā, rupam, form, abhut, became manifested, dvedha,
vedha,
twofold, yat, which is, kayam, his body, abhichakshate, is said to be. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. While he was thus absorbed in contemplating and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahmā. Please repeat. While he was thus absorbed in contemplation, and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahmā.
Okay, Gaudacandra, so we're all set on our end for you to continue.
Okay, thank you. Purport. Two bodies came out from the body of Brahmā. One had a mustache, and the other had swollen breasts. No one can explain the source of their manifestation, and therefore until today they are known as the Kayam, or the body of Brahmā, with no indication of their relationship as his son or daughter. Okay. Om Jnana Tamadandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshu Unitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swamupa Tikadamayam Didanti Swapatantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpa Tribhuscha Kripasindu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the process of creation is being discussed, and I guess we could just review these translations here. So thereafter Brahmā accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus engaged himself in the matter of further creation. O son of the Kurus, when Brahmā saw that in spite of the presence of sages of great potency, there was no sufficient increase in population, he seriously began to consider how the population could be increased. Brahmā thought to himself, alas, it is wonderful that in spite of my being scattered all over, there is still insufficient population throughout the universe. There is no other cause for this misfortune but destiny. And then today's verse. While he was thus absorbed in contemplation and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahmā. So this was two forms. There was a male and a female, and they came from Lord Brahma's body. And so even today, Prabhupada says they're considered to be known as Kayam, or the body of Brahma. So this is very interesting. So we're discussing some amazing things here. I mean, our ultimate philosophy is Swayam Bhagavan and his incarnations in the spiritual world. So this material world is considered not very significant. As you can see here, there's a very insignificant cloud towards the bottom here on the right. Can you see it? It's very insignificant. So that's how this material world is considered to be very small, insignificant. So what's the use of describing all this creation? You know, this is an elaborate description of matter. We're discussing this sex life of Lord Brahma and others. And, you know, Srimad Bhagavatam is supposed to be the highest literature. We want to discuss about Brahman, the absolute truth. So why, you know, we want to get out of this material world, right? We want to go to the spiritual world. We want to become detached from this world. So why don't we just simply get absorbed in Krishna? Why spend so much time on these aspects? So we can see we're on these first cantos here. The first and this first to the third cantos actually describes this universal form, and they're actually the words of Sukadeva Goswami. He's actually the most exalted devotee of Krishna, even more than Vedavyas. So there must be a reason for this preponderance of descriptions of this creation of the material world. So what could it be? So there's actually a good answer. If we actually delve deeply, we can see that in Srimad Bhagavatam, as described in the second canto, chapter 10, Srimad Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So what would be the answer? Srimad Bhagavatam is described there as having 10 topics. And this is what a real Purana has, is 10 topics. So if we look closely, we'll see all these 10 topics are described. We have the Sarga, that's like the first creation by Vishnu. This is even before, as we discussed earlier, there's actually description of Lord Brahma creating Lord Vishnu creating everything. First we have the grosser material elements. We have the 5 objects of sense perception, the 10 senses, the mind, intelligence, ego, total material energy, which is like the universal form. This is created by Vishnu. That's Sarga. So now Visarga, that's what we're discussing right now. That's a secondary creation of Lord Brahma. And he's producing all the moving, unmoving bodies in the universe. So he's creating these things. This is the work of Lord Brahma. And then we go into Sthana, which is the maintenance of the creation. And this is the maintain the universe. As we see the Vishnu function, he creates Brahma's, and he maintains actually, and Brahma creates and Lord Shiva destroys. So even though Lord Brahma is a creator and Lord Shiva is a destroyer, Vishnu is still the maintainer. So this is being described here in this third aspect of the Bhagavatam that's being discussed. So this has to be a place where these living entities can enjoy. This is the sthana, the maintenance, the homes and the planets where everybody's at. And then it goes to Poshana, the favoring of the Lord's devotees. This shows how the Lord protects his devotees, like Ajamil, which I guess he was a devotee, but then he kind of fell away, but Krishna protected him. And then it's different topics, like Indra, he was like an aparati, how he was protected. So we can analyze these different topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not like we can say, oh, the first to the third canto is about Sarga, and the fourth canto is Visarga, the fifth canto is like describes all the places in the universe where the living entities enjoy. And then we go to Poshana, the the Lord's favor and his devotees, also protection there. This is the fourth one. Yeah, that's Poshana. And we go to Huti. This is the activities, the impetuses for activities, and the results, what people, how they perform activities and what happens. So there's different activities described in the 7th canto about Hiranyakashipu, his different activities of the demons, and then Prahlad Maharaj, the activities of the devotees. And then the 6th topic is the Manvantara, described as the prescribed duties given by the Manus. And this is what we're discussing in today's verse, actually. These 2 bodies were the Manus. So this was the first Manus being with the Manvantaras. So every day of Brahma there's 14 Manus. And this is the day of Lord Brahmā, which is like 71 cycles. So this is described in the 8th canto. So we could kind of get an idea of these things are described in different cantos, but we can't say, oh, this is specifically just for this, because actually all throughout the Bhagavatam, all 10 of these are discussed. So we can't really break it up that way. So, but in general, we can kind of analyze and see some cantos have more about these particular topics than others, but they all have everything. So where do we leave off? On 7. So Isanu Kata, this is the topics of the Lord and his different incarnations, and also about the devotees of the Lord. That's described in the 9th canto also. And then we go to, what's this one? Ishana Kata, Nirodha, winding up of the creation. It talks about destruction. You could see that in the 12th canto. Then there's Mukti, liberation, described in the 11th canto. And then Ashraya, the ultimate shelter. That's described in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the highest is in the 10th canto. So we may wonder, why is this Ashraya, this transcendence, a summum bonum, not in the 12th canto, or why don't we just end in the 10th canto? Or why don't we just have the 10th canto in the beginning and forget everything else? Just surrender to Krishna, right? That's the simplest thing, just surrender. The most powerful thing is the simplest thing. So we see that in the 10th canto, that Krishna is actually the support of everything. That's the most important thing, actually. So this is the whole science of Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam accepts the Sri Krishna as the shelter of everything. Everything is a manifestation of Krishna, and he's the source of everything, and he's the ultimate goal of everything. So we see here. So the real purpose of going through all these different descriptions, sometimes they're indirect stories, narrations, and different topics about personalities and things and their activities. This is the purpose is to perfectly know Krishna in all its different aspects, because actually the entire creation, both material and spiritual, they rest on the body of Krishna, which is so important. So let's just simply worship Krishna. And actually we see in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna is asking Krishna, so what should I do? Should I do this gradual process described in the 12th chapter, to get to Brahma and then Bhakti, go through this special process? Or should I just do Bhakti? So what does Krishna say? He says, just do Bhakti. It's simpler. So the reason why we could mention is that people have to follow this gradual process is because people are not qualified. They have to go step by step through different yogas, and ultimately they end up in Bhakti Yoga. So all these things are discussed in the Bhagavatam. For people who don't have any faith, what would they do? They have to actually follow some kind of process. And either process, whatever yogas they begin with, Karma Yoga, different yogas, Stanga Yoga, these different types of yogas, they all have to be a little bit of Bhakti, otherwise there's no result. So gradually, hopefully, they'll get the ultimate gain, which is Bhakti. But actually, unfortunately, that gradual process doesn't work in Kali Yuga. And Krishna confirms that in the Bhagavad Gita we just mentioned, that we shouldn't go through the gradual process. It takes a long time, and we're not really qualified, but at the same time we're saying that we need something. So what kind of process is there? We have to go step by step through these yogas? What do we do? So there's no Varnashram system in place right now. There's no ideal kings like King Parikshit. And our time is very limited. We have a very short lifespan. It's not very practical. There's so many distractions, as you can see in the bottom of the image here. There's so many things to distract our time. So what does it mean? We can't just dive into bhakti, but yet we're not qualified. So how to make qualified without a gradual process of yoga and all these other methods? So what should we do? So this is described that we have to depend on the devotees. See the devotees there? We have to get devotee association. And then gradually our faith will develop. We become qualified. That's why Lord Chaitanya emphasized this preaching aspect, that it's up to the devotees to give their mercy. Just we heard in class the other day, Mukunda Datta was giving a very nice class about the devotees, and it was talking about we're talking about the birth of Lord Krishna in the prison of Kamsa. And when Devaki had Krishna in her womb, being impregnated by her husband, Vasudeva, from within the mind, it's described. It wasn't an ordinary way, but it was by initiation, it was described. So she was so beautiful, and the beauty was emanating through in the walls of the prison. Nobody else could see. And Prabhupada describes it as it's like knowledge that's hidden. Someone has knowledge, but they don't share it. So Mukunda Datta was describing how there's different types of people that have this gyan. You may have gyan, but you don't preach it. Or you may have this knowledge, but you don't follow it yourself. Or you may have this knowledge, but you're proud. So these are the pitfalls of the preachers, that we have to become qualified. So we have to see, if we follow the devotees, it's by their mercy. We get a little bit of faith and gradually accept spiritual master. We study, we perform these austerities, sense control, we get the spiritual knowledge, and ultimately we can avoid going in this pitfall of being degraded more and more into the lower steps here. So we go through the acharyas, we go through the guru, we follow the rules of sadhana bhakti, and then bhakti is developed. And then once you develop bhakti, then you can experience it. So what's developing here is that the soul, the atma, is developing, not the body and the mind really. Otherwise, we have that ego. We have those pitfalls where we don't follow the teachings. We don't preach. But actually, this atma is developing. And then if that's developing, then what happens? And then ultimately the perceptions change. We begin to see things in a more spiritual way. Our vision is much better. So therefore, as I mentioned in the previous class I gave, that our attitude has to be proper. We have to have this good attitude. That's the most important thing. What's your attitude? What is it? That we have to be strict. We have to follow the process very nicely. We have to be sincere. And what was the other one I mentioned? Some other one. I can't remember exactly right now. But yeah, this attitude is very important. So somehow or another, if all our activities are related to Krishna, then we will begin to understand the nature of the devotees, the nature of the Lord. We'll begin to understand what we're reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll see how it actually is related to Krishna. It may take time, just like we see how creation is being described here. It doesn't fit into our experience, but nevertheless we accept it as the absolute truth because we have faith. So this faith is important. And this absolute truth, it comes through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's like sound. It's a special type of sound, the Vedas. It's a different kind of sound. It's not the gross sound where we hear from someone else's mouth and it comes into our ear. There's actually 4 levels of sound. And this is the gross level is called vikari. But there's actually deeper levels of sound. And as you go deeper and deeper into the heart, there's Madhyama, there's Pashanti, and there's Para. Para is actually the original sound coming from the spiritual world. It's the actual thing. You can actually see it. I mean, it's actually there. But we need this proper vision to see these things and Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's what we're trying to develop by reading Srimad Bhagavatam like we're doing now, engaging in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is amazing. It has so many aspects to it. As you can see here, sometimes Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned to be, as we see there in the tent, it's like a lamp. What does it do? It reveals the Adhyatma. It reveals the soul that is covered by this gross material energy that's created by Lord Brahmā, this ignorance to put us in bewilderment. So that Srimad Bhagavatam is a lamp that does that. Or as we see on the left, it's the sun. What does it do? It brings light. It destroys darkness. It destroys all these clouds of ignorance that you see there. You see in the morning here in LA, it's so hazy and cloudy. But after a while, the sun comes up, and it's just so clear. So this is what the sun does. It brings light and destroys darknesses. So this is actually pleases the devotees. This is Krishna. He comes as the sun to please the devotees, destroy the demons, and then he gives his personal idea of how this is actually God. He's a person. He could protect me. It's very, very nice. So also Srimad Bhagavatam is described like a ripened fruit. You can imagine a ripened mango. The skin is so thin, it's practically not even there. And it's just like juice, just so sweet. And you could drink it practically. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. It's like the ripe fruit mango that you drink. So this is what the Srimad Bhagavatam reveals is the Supreme Lord in his most personal aspect. It reveals his rasa, his taste, the prema, the love for Krishna. This is Swayam Bhagavan. This is what's described in the 10th canto. So also Srimad Bhagavatam is hidden. And it's described to be actually like Mohini Murti. How is it like this? Just like Mohini Avatar, she comes to bewilder the demons. As here we see, she's bewildering even Lord Shiva. She's so powerful. Because this is Krishna. And Krishna is non different than the Srimad Bhagavatam. So sometimes the Srimad Bhagavatam is tricky. It bewilders the demons because she stole the nectar from them and they thought, oh yeah, we'll give it to her. She likes this. She'll give it back to us. But she fooled the demons and she gave it to the devotees. And these demons are like impersonalists also. The impersonalists read Srimad Bhagavatam and they screw out all kinds of their meanings because they see it differently according to their vision. Their hearing is not purified. They don't go deep to the level of the heart. So these are demons, impersonalists, same thing. So this is bhakti, it's hidden. But why is it hidden like that? We can see it's like, because I heard it described that the Supreme Lord likes to be indirect. Just like it describes in the Puranas that the Lord can walk, but he does not walk. You know, he can see, but he has no eyes, like that. So because he likes to be that way. He's tricky, he's hidden. Just like devotees may question, see if I have this one, yeah. The devotees may question, why did the Vrishnis get drunk? Why did they kill each other? You know, why did Krishna have to get shot in the foot? Or, you know, why did Krishna have to leave Vrindavan? So even as devotees, we may become bewildered or we can understand. But it's very confidential. It's very hidden. So that's why we have to actually engage in devotional service. Be engaged in this process of sadhana, of hearing with faith and devotion. And then gradually our senses become purified. Our hearing becomes purified. And it goes deeper into the heart. And then we begin to taste this mellow relationship of Krishna in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then it's not hidden anymore. And for the devotees, it's there. It's available. We have it. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. It's the same thing. Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but Krishna. Otherwise, why would Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit spend their time speaking about Srimad Bhagavatam? They went through the first canto all the way to the 9 cantos with relish. It's not that they're, oh yeah, let's get to the 10th canto right away. But actually, Krishna's everywhere throughout the Bhagavatam. And we can see why would such a great devotee as Sukadeva Goswami speak about all these topics that we're reading today in today's verse, or in these chapters, is because it's related somehow or another to Krishna. We may not be able to see it right now, but actually as we become purified, we'll begin to see how there is a connection to Krishna. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's the ultimate scripture. And it develops this great devotion, this great relish. So this is how we go through this. We first go through the Sambandha Gyan, and then we go to the different types of Gyans. We go into that, and then we gradually, we get to this Prayojana. We get to understand Krishna. So this creation of Lord Brahma, he created such a big illusion of the mature world. But he did not only create this illusion, but he actually gave us the process on how to get out of it. He gave us the reason why we're here, the process to get out, the purpose. We're seeing how it's created. Everything is being described, how Krishna is related, how everything's on the body of Krishna. So these are the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they ultimately are related with Krishna. Because as we said, Sukadeva Goswami, he doesn't speak anything that's not related to Krishna. And Maharaj Parikshit wouldn't listen to anything if it wasn't related to Krishna. So this is it. So we may think, oh, this Sarga, and then this Visarga, which we're discussing now with Lord Brahma, it's not related to Krishna, so I won't listen to it. I'll just go to the 10th canto. I'll join the Gopi Baba Club. So Prabhupada did not like that. We have to understand and read gradually, and we go through the Srimad Bhagavatam. Practically, you're guaranteed to be self-realized by the time you finish. In fact, even as you're going, you become more and more self-realized in Krishna consciousness. So ultimately, we will see this is Krishna. We end up with Krishna consciousness. Krishna comes, he reveals himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're actually taking part in his pastimes, where he's showing his personal form, his personal activities, how he personally cares about his devotees, how he kills the demons, how he brings us back to life from this dead, mature world, and we are in touch with Krishna. If you become more and more in touch with Krishna, then you're, what more do you want? This is Krishna. So we have to, as devotees, we have to touch Srimad Bhagavatam with relish, with our ears. We have to speak it properly and preach, join Lord Chaitanya's movement to spread this knowledge everywhere. Just like now we're huge temple in Mayapur. They're developing this great planetarium to show how this universe is created. It's not that we have to do it according to the so-called scientists. They're no authority, so we don't have to do anything according to their standards. But we're going by the standard of Srimad Bhagavatam, because we have faith that this is Krishna. And we're describing Krishna. And people who come will see this, and they'll become purified, and they will get in touch with Krishna. And this is the ultimate goal. This is our goal. We understand why we're here in the mature world, how Krishna is creating the mature world, through his different energies, through his different devotees, why we're here, where we live, what's our activities, and how to ultimately get out of here. So we have the process. We have the highest form, the highest scripture, which gives us the highest form of sound vibration, that if we simply hear it, our whole consciousness, our whole thinking, our perceptions and everything will change. And it'll change to spirituality. This Atma will be awakened and it'll shine. Just like Krishna's mother was shining in the cell, in the prison of Kamsa. It will shine. But we shouldn't keep it covered like if it's caught in a box. But we should actually spread it out so that everyone can see it and experience it. So like we said, it's confidential. Sometimes it's hidden, just like it's described in the Bhagavad Gita. The middle 6 chapters is the confidential, and it's covered by the first, the first 6 and the last 6. It's like a jewel. So similar, Srimad Bhagavatam is like that. It may not end in the 10th canto. It may not be the last part of the Bhagavatam, there's 11th and 12th. It may seem, oh, why does 11th and 12th? I mean, that's more important, liberation, impersonalistic themes, yoga. But it's hidden in a sense. Another description is like there's a box with a jewel in it. So there's a covering of the base, like the box, and then there's a wrap around it. So inside is a jewel. So it's like that. The 10th canto is hidden, confidential topics of Krishna. And we can dive into those everywhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is why Lord Chaitanya told Devananda Pandit that how he should describe Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, whatever you do, wherever you are, you describe Srimad Bhagavatam in relationship to Krishna. So this is who we are. We're related to Krishna. We're in Krishna's family, and that's where we want to go. So thank you very much. And we can open up for comments or questions now. I hope I didn't lose anybody.
Be there in a second.
Oh, great. You're still here.
Okay, there you go.
Gaudacandra, lovely
Yeah,
class.
no,
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Twice you mentioned something very important, which certainly goes along with the creation, and that is, twice you said, we understand why we're here in the material world. We understand why we're here in the material world. That's very important.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes difficult to convey that to new people. That's a great question, a very fair, a very reasonable question that we often get when new people come. And that's kind of my favorite type of preaching, is preaching to new people. And I'm kind of curious, because you're also a preacher yourself, how do you answer this question to a new person that's just come Sunday feast? They're sincere, they're asking a genuine question. Why are we here? How do you answer that question?
I usually tell people that, Krishna's so kind. He's like really cool. Krishna's really cool. And he fulfills all our desires. So we have that desire to want to enjoy material. And Krishna, I don't know if you could say he went out of his way, because Krishna could do anything, but he created this whole material universe just to fulfill those desires for us. He's so cool. He created a situation for us to come and try to think we're enjoying. So in that way, and then at the same time, he created it in such a way that he will create opportunities for us to come back home, back to Godhead. So therefore, he sent his devotees, he sent his scriptures, and that way we can understand. And ultimately, we'll say, oh yeah, this is not really my home. I can see that's why, because I'm suffering. Things are temporary, nothing lasts. I want more. Why do I have to die? We become dissatisfied. But then, if the devotees are there and they're merciful, then they could reveal that to them, and they see, oh yeah, I want to become like that. I want to be like that devotee. And then they're attracted, and they get faith, and they ultimately go through the whole process.
Nice. That's a nice answer. But what do you tell them when they ask, well, if it was so great there, because we're describing how perfect and wonderful the Anandam Buddhivardhanam, a place where love and ecstasy and pleasure and relationships are always increasing in sweetness, why would we ever leave such a place to come here? Why would we have any other desire?
Yeah, I'm sure you have some good answers, but usually what I say is, I tell them, love, definition of love means it's not forced. I mean, we're not in the spiritual world like robots, and we're forced to love Krishna. Bow down, serve me, do this, do that. No, we do it out of love. It's free will. So Krishna gives us free will. So we have that free will to actually, not serve Krishna, or at least we think we're not. So Krishna respects that, and he doesn't interfere with our free will. And so therefore we leave that place.
That's nice. I think that's what I say. I guess the only thing I add is that there are some things in our philosophy that you're not going to fully understand at this point. Sure, and this is one of them, exactly why we turned away. It's like if a young child asks his mother, what is sex desire like? Well, you can't describe that to someone who's never experienced it. They're not capable of understanding. So I always tell them, I can give you some understanding, but please don't misunderstand. I can just tell you that this is something you'll understand further down the road. And then we'll go into the idea of, if you're drowning in an ocean and someone throws you a life vest, and the ship is there to get us, get on board, ask later how it was we got there. First, we have to understand that we made some terrible mistake. We'll figure that out later. But I also do. I agree with you completely. Talking about how that the love is based on free will, and as you're saying that this material world with all of its faults is a wonderful, wonderful place, because it's a place where we can exhaust those desires and correct ourselves and get back to home. But very, very nice. That's helpful. I like to hear how different people express it, because it's such an important question.
Yeah, it is. That's very nice how you described how the child, he doesn't have the body to experience sex life, so he can't know. So once he develops that body, then you'll see. So similar to devotees, once we develop the Atma, the real body, and we become purified, then we'll actually penetrate deeper into the deeper levels of sound and understand things properly. So nice. Great. Thank you, Prabhu. That's awesome.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for a great class.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have 10 minutes.
Okay, I have one.
Okay, Prabhu.
The first sloka, Lord Brahma accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus he engaged himself in the matter of creation. So in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that the former body was transcendental, so therefore affection for sex was forbidden, and therefore he accepted another body. So, there's the description in the Krishna book, how when Usha and Aniruddha, they came together and their love increased 10 times upon 10 times, I don't know, whatever that description was, and ultimately she became pregnant. And then there's a description about Arjuna and Subhadra. The intensity of their attachment was such that Arjuna couldn't, for a moment, be without thinking about Subhadra, even his eating and sleeping. Those descriptions, I don't know exactly how it goes. But.
Yeah.
So the question is, for one who is in the transcendental position, obviously as the direct associates, the parishad of the Lord are, how is it possible that they can think about desire, what to speak of endeavor, or engage in sex without feeling material desire?
So I guess that's a difference between lust and love.
Okay, that's my point. So we're talking about the material sex life. So one is lust, whereas love for Krishna is completely opposite, transcendental. So. If you're asking the question is how can one experience love through a material body by engaging in sex? No, I just gave an example that two parishad devotees of the Lord. So how is it possible they would not be feeling material sex desire?
I think that's going to fall into the category of what we were just saying, like a young child that's never experienced, doesn't have that body yet to understand what sex desire is like. I think we have to wait till we're completely pure to understand how two individuals could desire to have sex, but it's all simply for. I think we're more like teens, right? We're not exactly babies. I'm not even a teen yet. I'm still a baby. I haven't hit spiritual adolescence yet, but
no puberty yet.
I'm still wearing diapers.
So we're all kids talking about it.
I think so. I think that's well said.
Purify our hearing process more, I guess.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents, maybe.
Yeah, I just kind of think of that difference between lust and love is, there's a great difference. I guess someone could engage in sex life and still have, Krishna says of sex life, according to his principles, I am. I mean, that's you can make it an offering to Krishna, somehow related to Krishna, to bring Krishna conscious children, to satisfy a devotee of Krishna. You know?
Maybe I'm just thinking out loud here. Also, like prasadam, when we eat prasadam, it's non-different from Krishna. It's very pleasing to Krishna, the spiritual master, and we're enjoying our senses, in a purified sense.
Sure.
In the service of Krishna, knowing that this food is non-different from Krishna. The sweetness, the wonderful taste of this food is non-different from Krishna. In the same way, Krishna says, "Kamasmi," which Gauda was giving an example that it's non-different from Krishna. So when our hearts are really, really pure, and we're really doing this to bring people into the material world as a service to Krishna, then there's no harm. The sense, it's like the fangs are cut.
Mm-hmm.
The dangerous effects of the senses are not there. Those senses are being used in the service of Krishna. Krishna kena Hrishikeja Sevanam Bhakta Ruchate.
Yeah, we use the tongue in Krishna service, so we could use the genitals in Krishna service. So some another relate everything to Krishna.
It's described that all of the residents of Dvaraka, the direct associates of the Lord, they were like so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that they didn't even think about their bodies, eating or sleeping.
Yeah.
I would suppose mating, defending as well. But they were going on as if automatic.
Yeah.
They didn't even know how they were, those bodily functions were going on.
And like it describes the description of the Vaikuntha, how the women are so beautiful and men are so beautiful, but they have no sex desire actually. They're just completely absorbed in Krishna service.
So that's a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, for us to understand. It's like there's a lot of mysteries in the Bhagavatam, but as we become purified, Krishna reveals. So, yeah. Some of you probably listening are pure devotees. Oh, here's one. Jai. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hello. Listen, you were talking earlier about, about reading the 10th canto without reading the other cantos, and you were citing that as an example kind of a thing. And I was just wondering, like Srila Prabhupada printed the Krishna book, which is the summary of the 10th canto, because my understanding is he was concerned that he wouldn't live long enough to print the 10th canto. And then he desired that book to be massively distributed. So what's the difference between reading the Krishna book without having read the other books? Because the words were distributing them. That was the very first book I ever got.
Yeah.
Was the Krishna book, the 10th canto. And the stories are in there. Yeah. And I don't know. I never read Bible Kingdom. I even heard the name. So, like, what's the difference between that and what you were citing as an example?
Well, if you're reading Krishna book, then you're guaranteed to become a devotee, Prabhupada said. And Prabhupada writes the Krishna book in such a way that you get all the philosophy. So it's very nice. Prabhupada's genius in describing that. So, as I mentioned also, like everywhere throughout the Bhagavatam, all these 10 topics are described. So you can't just say that the 10th canto, but actually I was reading the other day in the 4th canto, there's some really amazing stuff. It's talking about heart-to-heart relationship with Krishna and heart-to-heart relationship with devotees. There's like in the 4th canto, like already there. So it's like all these things are discussed all throughout the Bhagavatam. But in general, Prabhupada mentions that we want to go step by step. So we actually, as just like Sukadev, why would Sukadev and Maharaj Pariksit do that? So we want to follow in their footsteps and relish everything about Krishna, not try to emphasize one thing more than the other, but, for our own purification and in general, you can read the Krishna book at night all the time. Prabhupada wanted that. And he said he distributes his Krishna books because they'll make devotees. And who are they giving the Krishna book to? Just general people out there in the streets. That's like the highest philosophy. So this is the mercy of the devotees, giving Krishna. So maybe there's some more.
The level of confidence. Some of the confidential pastimes of Krishna in the Krishna book are pretty intense. You know what I'm saying? He's cautioned us to not read the 10th canto. We should read the other 9 cantos first. But at the same time, he's given us the Krishna book right away to be distributed right away to people who don't even know what the first 9 cantos are. They don't even know what the 10th canto is, and they're reading these stories.
That's okay. They become purified.
It's the causeless mercy of the pure devotee.
Yeah.
Prabhupada is the Sangstapa Acharya. He can break the rules.
Yeah. I mean, even reading
and also Gauda's point's well taken that Prabhupada laced that Krishna book through and through and through with the other 9 the essence of the other 9 cantos. It's all through it. That was a very important point that Gauda made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I add something to this equation?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Prabhu.
Dandavats.
Jaya Krishnamastam Business. Hare Krishna.
So, it's interesting what Nahari Prabhu brought up earlier. How do you explain this world? And Prabhupada, some of my favorite talks that Prabhupada gave were in '66, in the summer of '66 in New York, because he's explaining things to people, brand new people that don't know anything. And it's amazing the depth of some of his explanations, but at the same time, the ways that Krishna used him to get across different points. But anyway, here's the idea of this world is basically created for the criminals who would rather be the controllers than serve. And it's more than having a desire for enjoyment. I mean, there's so much enjoyment. I mean, anandam. We are sat chit anandam. And in the spiritual world, our whole being is just resonating with ecstasy. So that's our nature is enjoying. That's the nature of the soul, anandam. But this place has been given not just to burn out our desire for enjoyment. That will never happen because we're sat chit ananda. The nature of the soul is to have pleasure, to have happiness, and to ultimately have love. So the way we end up here is we have some exploiting tendency to exploit things for ourselves rather than a dedicating tendency. So we want to be the center. We have a tendency to rule in hell rather than to serve in heaven. So to try to enjoy as the center rather than serving the reservoir of all pleasure, we've just made a mistake. It's a miscalculation. So this world is made for those that want to try to enjoy apart from Krishna. So he's giving that facility. But then there's some sand in the sweet rice, right? To bring us to our senses. There's so much suffering here. There's so many reactions. And after a while, if somebody's taking notes, paying attention, they'll find that it's very unnatural to try to enjoy apart from the Lord, and that it really, in the end, we're insignificant. And we need, at every moment, we need the mercy of Krishna to even exist, what to speak of, to have lasting happiness or enjoyment, without having to suffer reactions.
Jai.
Does that cover it?
Thank you. Nice summary. Thank you. Yeah, we're insignificant as that little cloud. And the whole mature world is insignificant.
I like how Vidagda said we'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven.
Yeah.
I like that. That was nice.
Yeah, that's from Paradise Lost or something. It's Milton or somebody. It's from a poem that actually Prabhupada and Srila Sridhar Maharaj went to the same college, and the British professors, exposed them to some English literature, and some of the poetry is interesting. It's theistic.
Yeah. Jai. Thank you for that. Any other comments? I guess it's already 10 o'clock. Oh, somebody else?
I was just going to really quick just enter whatever the word is. I don't want to try and answer my own question because I didn't want to leave it hanging.
Sure.
I was going to say that if you have a very intimate relationship, with a son or a lover or a friend, then you want to please them in every way, both sides. It's very, very intimate. And then if you find anything that the other party likes, then you want to please them by supplying that to them. And that, by supplying that to the other party, they actually feel love. Let's say if it's something insignificant, maybe a lover has a husband or wife has an attachment for a particular type of flower or something, I don't know, whatever, eatable, whatever, and you give it to them, that enhances the relationship, but at no time does it disturb the relationship. It's not that they're so attached to that object that it's more important than the relationship. So when I believe, this is my speculation, that for these great personalities, even if it appears that they have material desires, those desires actually enhance their Krishna consciousness. And in no way does that disturb the intense relationship that they have with the Lord. Because that is so much more important than anything else.
Yeah, that's true. That's nice how you describe it. You say they want to do anything that pleases them. And also I've heard it said that you avoid anything that doesn't please them. You want to try to avoid that for that lover or whatever. Yeah. Jai, thank you. Very good. Very good answer. So is that it, Prabhu, or any other comments?
I thought you said we're going till 10 o'clock. We've got about another 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, yeah. I guess it's 10 o'clock here.
Oh.
I guess, yeah, you guys have a different time zone.
Well, thank you, Prabhu.
Jai, thank you.
Thank you, Gauda. Very nice.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
Prabhu.
in another 2 weeks.
Jai, Hare Krishna. Looking forward to it.
Haribol.
Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Ki Jai.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
That was nice.